What's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday, and welcome to the very first movie collection update of 2025. This one is mostly all Christmas gifts. So I had, my family, some friends and stuff. A lot of people know I'm a big movie geek. I'm into collecting movies. So I got a lot of cool stuff for Christmas. That's not what all of this is, but that's what most of it is. And it's freezing cold here. It's been a Sunday. I haven't done shit all day. Hope my bedhead is not too distracting. But anyways, let's get into it. Very first up, we've got, like a year or so ago, like last summer, I showed that I had never heard of this documentary series called Icons Unearthed. But I bought one that was all about The Simpsons, which was a pretty cool documentary going all into more or less kind of the behind-the-scenes production of The Simpsons. So it focused on the writers and the network executives, and it was a different spin on it, so it was interesting. Now, you guys know me, and you know what my number one favorite franchise is, and I don't care how many people bat their eyes at me for it. So when I saw they did an Icons Unearthed, I had to just put it on my wish list, and then my dad actually came through and got it for me as a Christmas gift. Icons Unearthed, Fast and Furious. And this is awesome. Each episode, it goes through every single movie in the franchise, with the exception of Hobbs and Shaw, which is not brought up at all in this. I'm not huge into Hobbs and Shaw, so that didn't really bother me. But it's great. You get tons of amazing behind-the-scenes anecdotes. Of course, the Paul Walker episode is really sad. And then you have all these bonus interviews on there, including, the full raw 2-hour-long thing with Tyrese, which is one of the most awkward watches because the first hour or so of that interview is totally fine, but then Tyrese, you can tell he's getting so agitated with being there and with the interviewer, who, in my opinion, the interviewer was terrible. But if you're like me and you are a huge fan of this franchise, there's a lot in here that I learned that I never heard before, so definitely recommended. And now this is where I'm going to piss everybody off. Because this thing got a lot of praise, and everyone loves this movie. They put the certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes here on the cover. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I don't give a fuck about Rotten Tomatoes scores, because most of my favorite movies have pretty low Rotten Tomatoes scores. What does that say about me? I really don't know. Nor do I really care. But I'm like, okay, well, it sounded interesting sounding thriller, All I knew about it was that there was a crazy twist in it. But I didn't really know anything beyond that. That said, within the first 3 minutes of the movie, I correctly guessed what the twist was. And then watching the whole movie, I'm like, yeah, that definitely adds to this. Yeah, so, within the first 3 minutes, I called the twist of Strange Darling. I thought this movie fucking sucked. I am sorry, guys, but this is just artsy, pretentious, non-linear storytelling, artsy direction. I'm so sick of this type of shit, And even, okay, so you take the non-linear storytelling out of the way, you just structure the story as is. It's not interesting at all. It's so boring. It's so drawn out. And, this did not do it for me at all. I'm on an island, clearly, but I thought this was terrible, and by the last half hour, this thing was an absolute chore to sit through. Did not like that one. Now, something I do genuinely love, and when I saw Kino was giving this the 4K Blu-ray, special treatment, I was so happy, because this is one that, it's such an underrated movie. It got shafted by Dimension and Miramax when it first got released, and so I'm very happy to now own a good edition of Below. If you like ghost story movies, if you like submarine movies, if you like psychological thrillers, this is one of the most underrated movies I can offer you. I love Below. It's co-written by Darren Aronofsky, who was originally going to direct it, but it ended up being directed by David Twohy, who I am a fan of. I haven't seen all of his movies, but he's, batting 100 with the ones I have seen. Great cast. Bruce Greenwood, Holt McCallany, who before he blew up, Zach Galifianakis is in there, Nick Chinlund. It's a crazy cast. You have a World War II submarine movie that's also a ghost story. And I just think that's so cool. And the movie just executes it perfectly. So Kino Lorber has almost turned into my favorite boutique label because they're putting stuff out like this. Now, if only they could follow through with Dimension and Miramax. If they could do this, good 4K Blu-ray release of Rennie Harlin's Mindhunters, that would be a happy day. Now, this one's a Vinegar Syndrome. I normally don't buy much from Vinegar Syndrome because, quite honestly, I think 95% of their output is crap and not worth. I'm like, I don't feel comfortable paying more than $10 or $15 for that movie because, guys, I know the physical media community has definitely been like a discussion lately. I collect the movies. I love movies. I like watching them. I like talking about them with my friends. I like recommending them. I don't care about the edition, the slipcover. I don't care. That's why, if you notice, I title these videos My Movie Collection, because that's what I'm after. And so that being said, I know they put a lot of work and care into their releases, but yeah, a lot of this crap Vinegar Syndrome puts out, the full retail price being above $10 or $15, yeah, no, I'm not paying that much. But this one had such a crazy premise that I figured, okay, maybe this one will be up my alley. Blood Tracks, a glam metal band from the 80s, which was a real band that existed. Even Key Marcello from the band Europe is in the band, and he's in this movie. I'm just like, oh shit, Key Marcello's in this. Oh, Key Marcello just got decapitated. But this movie's dog shit. This is not worth seeing at all. It's terrible. Yeah. Don't waste your time. Such is the case when you blindly buy stuff from Vinegar Syndrome. They have put out some gems in the past. I give them full credit for that, and I was hoping that would be one of them. It wasn't. This one was a gift from the old reliable Rinkerman, who sent me New Year's Evil as a Christmas gift because he wanted my thoughts on it for New Year's Eve. And you know what? This one's got a pretty bad reputation too. And I'm not the biggest slasher guy. For me I like slasher movies, but for me to like them, there has to be something really unique about the plot or the setup or the characters. But it's not the greatest movie, but I love the style, the aesthetic, the 1980 New Year's Eve vibe and party and all the punk rock mayhem in this. I'm just a sucker for that kind of stuff. And the plot itself is unique. It's like, okay, when it's midnight in each different time zone, somebody's gonna die, and the killer's kind of goofy, calling in the phone with the kazoo in his mouth, like, but I didn't hate it. Like, I was watching it. It's like it's got so many of those 1980s locations and hallmarks. The ending is pretty anticlimactic. I wasn't big on the way this ends, but as far as 80s kind of slasher sleaze goes, you could do a lot worse than New Year's Evil. I actually like this one, it's a mild like, but it's like, no, that wasn't that bad. I had to sit through Strange Darlings and Blood Tracks. That's not bad. And if I know there's people sitting here watching this like, what? Ken just put New Year's Evil over Strange Darling? Yes, I did. This one was a Christmas gift from my mom. So, shouting out all the people that contributed to this update. I had this on my Amazon wish list because it sounded like a fun, dark comedy mayhem. And they weren't kidding. This is a pitch dark comedy, but it's got an awesome cast, and I was eager to see this. Very Bad Things. I really like Christian Slater. I love Daniel Stern. Jeremy Piven's in here. Pitch black comedy. Is totally that post-Tarantino late 90s vibe. Directed by Peter Berg, weirdly enough, which just does not feel like a Peter Berg film. If you've seen the other stuff he's directed, it's like, he started directing with this. Interesting. But, so you have to have a very specific sense of humor. It's a very macabre movie, and at a lot of points, it's not even a comedy. Like, most of the time, you're just watching an exploitation film with this. But it was an interesting watch. I had my jollies out of it. And there's a great interview on there with Daniel Stern, too, which he just seems like such a great guy, like Daniel Stern, all these interviews you've seen. And he's got such an underrated body of work outside of the Home Alone franchise that he does not get nearly enough credit for. Like, he's never going to see this. Never. But Daniel Stern, you're awesome. Okay, again from old reliable Ryan Rinkerman, we've got Fist Fight. Now this came to me because he knows I'm a big fan of the movie 3 O'Clock High from the 80s, which this is like a modern retelling of, because it's the same premise as 3 O'Clock High, only now it's the teachers that are going to fight instead of two students. It plays by a lot of the same beats as 3 O'Clock High, so if you know that movie or are familiar with it, you pretty much know what you're getting out of this. And it plays by all the trappings of modern comedies that I hate. That's why you don't see me talk about very many modern comedies in these updates, just because they all play by the same playbook and it's all the same shit. And I always say, like, modern comedies, and I think I can talk about this because I literally have a bachelor's degree in comedy writing and performance from the Second City. So if I can use my comedic background to shed my opinion on this, all modern comedies, this is going to sound really counterintuitive, but I hate that all modern comedies have to star comedians. I know that sounds really counterintuitive and shitty, but hear me out on this. You look at your classic films from the 70s, 80s, 90s, the best comedies were when you're watching a story and the characters and the actors don't realize they're in a comedy. They are just taking a story, as goofy as it may be, and they're just living in it. They're sincere about it. Whereas modern comedies, we have to cast a whole bunch of these comedians in there, and everyone's got to be all meta and awkward humor, and it's like, oh, we clearly need to improvise everything and act goofy because we're in a comedy, and we have to acknowledge we're in a comedy. This does follow a lot of those trappings. That's why I don't like modern comedies. But the thing that really does get this by is that I'm a fan of Charlie Day. You know, I'm a huge It's Always Sunny fan. And I've always been a big fan of Ice Cube, Friday, 21 and 22 Jump Street. I love both of these guys. They got me through it and they made the movie worth watching, where I can say I did like it, but it is such a modern comedy. And that, you know, again, it's very middle of the road, but it's saved by the two leads. If you want to see a movie like that, just watch 3 O'Clock High. Speaking of 80s high school dark comedies, now this one I really loved. This was a great 80s movie that you never hear anybody talk about. And this came from a Secret Santa exchange. This and the next movie I'm about to show, these both came from a Secret Santa exchange. And to this very day, the person who sent them in to me never came forward. So I don't know who to thank for these two movies. I'll talk about this in a second. But Plain Clothes, directed by Martha Coolidge, who did Real Genius, one of my favorite movies of all time. This is like a 21 Jump Street light kind of film where Arliss Howard here, his brother is accused of murdering one of the teachers in the high school. And so Arliss Howard goes undercover as a student in the high school to try to figure out the conspiracy and what's going on. Tonally, it's all over the place. It gets really dark in places, especially near the end. But this is fun. Like, this is a great... This opens up with a sting operation at an ice cream truck where he puts the guy up against it and he says, "Freeze!" I love that stupid stuff. And there's even a commentary on here with Martha Coolidge. I haven't gotten a chance to listen to it with that yet, but this was an underrated one. You never hear anyone talk about Plain Clothes, you know, and you know, 3 O'Clock High. You don't hear people talk about that either. So we definitely need a resurgence of some of these because I'm a huge 80s guy. I'm so tired of hearing about Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Ghostbusters, the same stuff. No one ever sheds light on these movies, and check it out. This is an underrated gem of an 80s movie that I really liked. And they also sent Doc Hollywood. Again, I don't know who to thank for it. Whoever you are, thank you for sending these movies in off my wish list. I had seen this years ago when I was a kid, and I've always liked Woody Harrelson, and even though he's not in the movie much, it belongs to Michael J. Fox. And Michael J. Fox is always charming in his stuff. Watching this again all these years later, there's not quite as much that actually happens in the movie. It's more of a character kind of piece of this rags to riches almost kind of story of Michael J. Fox becoming more acclimated with this town. But it's got that great song, I am the one and only. And, he gives a good performance in this, Michael J. Fox. It's not one of his best, but it's a charming enough little movie. All right, now this was not a gift. I picked this one up myself because the plot sounded intriguing, and I'm a sucker for single location thrillers. So you look at your movies like Cube, Tower Block, Exam, 12 Angry Men, Circle, movies like that. I'm a sucker for those bottle movies where you have a group of people that have to try to get through a crazy situation together. And this is another one in that line called Last Passenger. It's a British thriller. I've got a very good reputation with British thrillers. And this was really cool. It's just, you never hear anyone talk about this. But it was a really cool movie where you have 6 people. They're on the last train of the night. It's like midnight. They're all getting ready to get off at the last stops. And someone has taken over the train and wants to kill themselves. And they're going to take the 6 people on board the train with them. Now, what's interesting about this is that you never see who the villain is, and you never know why they're doing what they're doing. You're totally in the POV of the 6 characters trying to get out of the situation. And I thought that was really interesting, that there really isn't a back and forth with any villain. You know as much as the characters do. And I always like when a movie takes that kind of a risk. It doesn't always pay off, but here I think it pays off. You have a great little cast of characters. It's just a good little, it moves at a breakneck pace. The tension, the suspense, you grow to really like some of the characters. Some of them have legitimately good arcs to them throughout the course of this. Yeah, now this that you see on the poster, this is very non-representative. There's no helicopters like jumping off the train. This is not from the movie. This poster is terrible. This makes it look like an action movie. This very much is not an action movie. It's a bottle suspense thriller of these 6 people figuring out how do we get off this train or how do we stop it. And it doesn't do anything crazy with the premise, but it does it well enough. And I really enjoyed it. Same thing with this. Snake Eyes. Brian De Palma and crazy Nicolas Cage. You get crazy Nicolas Cage in this movie, and he is a blast. You have an assassination at a boxing match where Nicolas Cage is there with Gary Sinise, and then it turns into a conspiracy thriller. Again, kind of a single location where it's all in this boxing, arena, and then it breaks off into the casino because it's at like a casino resort in Atlantic City, but you never leave the resort. So this was a cool little mystery thriller that's elevated so much by crazy Nicolas Cage. The only thing with this, if you go on YouTube, you will find the original ending to this film, which I think is so much better than the ending they actually gave it. So that's a little weird and disappointing. Because that original ending isn't even included on this Blu-ray. Come on, Kino, I was just talking you up. Come on, you couldn't get that. Come on, Kino. Minor complaint, the movie is still satisfying. I still really enjoyed it. But I was watching that original ending. I'm just like, man, that would have been so much better to see. But I get what they were doing. But it's stylish. It's fun. It's silly, but it's intriguing. And this one was a DVD upgrade. I'm a big fan of Anthony Perkins. I saw that Psycho was the first ever horror franchise I saw. I was in like the 4th or 5th grade watching Psycho through Psycho 4 with my grandma. I don't know why, but it happens. So I've always enjoyed Anthony Perkins, and this is a double feature. The second film, Edge of Sanity, I have not seen that yet, so I can't really comment on that. I mainly got this for Destroyer. I first saw Destroyer when I was a sophomore in high school, and I got a bootleg of it because I'm like, what is this crazy movie with Lyle Alzado with a jackhammer and a scope on it? And it's got Deborah Foreman and Anthony Perkins in it, and oh, it's such a stupid movie. It's so bonkers and weird, but I love it. Like, it's not that great, but there's something about the oddness of it that is just so enticing to me. Destroyer, this is the only way it's available right now, is this double pack, and there's no features or anything for it, which is a damn shame, because I would love to hear production stories from the director, Deborah Foreman, Clayton Rohner. Like, there's a lot of people involved with that I'm sure are still around. So I don't know if they just had a really small budget doing this release, but I would love to know more about Destroyer, because it is so just off the wall and zany. Lyle Alzado was a presence, man. All right, and these two, I believe the last two of the update, yes, that come from reliable Ryan Rinkerman. We've been, Ryan and I chat a lot online, and we're always, revisiting old shows from the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, and a show that I never really grew up with, but he introduced me to, and we've been watching a lot of episodes of, is Hey Arnold, which is funny because my last name is Pataki, and Helga's last name is Pataki, and her father is Bob Pataki, and my father is Bob Pataki, so there's a fun little parallel there. Of Hey Arnold, he sent me the Blu-ray of Hey Arnold, the movie, which is a fun one. It's got Paul Sorvino as a villain that's trying to, build this development and take out the town. It's classic Hey Arnold. It's really good. But even better is Hey Arnold, the Jungle movie. Now this one's interesting because this one is a direct follow-up to the last episode of the show, which had a 13-year gap. The last episode of Hey Arnold had a sequel bait, like hook, that would lead into this, but this didn't get made for 13 years. So Hey Arnold fans had to wait, where Arnold and the gang, they all go to the jungle because Arnold finally is on the trail of his parents and what happened to them. It's a really good movie with a really intriguing story. Like, this does not, neither one of these talk down to kids at all. And it makes me wish I grew up more actually watching Hey Arnold, because these are, like, I'm a 27-year-old guy watching these for the first time, but I'm really enjoying them. So I definitely need to seek more of the show out. And again, Ryan for Fist Fight, for the Hey Arnolds, and what was the other one he sent? What was the other thing he sent me? New Year's Evil. That was drawing a blank. See, guys, you talk about movies like this, I'm sitting here, I'm talking off the cuff. I don't plan. I'm just like, what was it? Oh, yeah, New Year's Evil. So, yeah. Thank you very much, Ryan. Now we've got 4 DVDs remaining. Another Christmas gift from my dad. This is one I had been wanting to see for a while, and I finally watched it around New Year's. Strange Days, written by James Cameron, directed by Catherine Bigelow, starring Ralph Fiennes and Angela Bassett. This was great. This might be one of the most hyper-stylized, turn-of-the-century, techno, cyber-noir thrillers I've ever seen, but I was all for it. I'm a sucker for that genre, this style, even though this was made in 1995, but this easily could have been 99. Like, James Cameron, he's always been a bit ahead of the curve, so that makes sense. But it's such a creative thing about Ralph Fiennes is like a drug dealer, but he's selling people's memories and people's experiences, and it turns into a murder because someone's memory is them having to witness their own death. It's crazy, but it's all over the place, and I loved it. This Angela Bassett especially, she was the best character in this. Like, I want to see a spin-off movie all about her and her limo. Like, it was great, but it's 20th Century Fox, so I don't know the likelihood of this ever getting on Blu-ray or 4K. It definitely needs I would love to upgrade this to a nice copy, but yeah, I loved it. I purchased this one just because my used place had this for $5, and I'm just like, oh, that sounds interesting. And this was a romp. This was highly enjoyable. It's this direct-to-video action film from the early 2000s called Lone Hero, where you have Lou Diamond Phillips as the leader of this biker gang that just goes around killing cops and robbing everybody, and they take hostage this Old West simulation town where they do Old West reenactments and performances and stuff. This is so bonkers, but I loved it. Like, this is my kind of stupid entertainment. It's got a weirdly stacked cast. Robert Forster's in here as, like, this badass, and, oh, this was like, it's really stupid, but it's incredible. There's a scene where Lou Diamond Phillips is robbing a bar, and he pops open the cash register, and it plays the most generic stock sound of a cha-ching, like a cash register sound that got put in there. Oh, man, this... Man, if someone wants to come around and do, like, a special edition release of this on Blu-ray, like Vinegar Syndrome, I was just giving you shit, right? I was just giving you shit. I acknowledge that. Vinegar Syndrome. This is the kind of shit you should be releasing. Not this, D-grade slasher exploitation. You need to be putting stuff out like this that definitely needs a wider release, because this may have been a B movie that was really stupid, but oh my god, this was entertaining. Like, this was great. This was 99 cents. I just like, that looks interesting. Destroying America. I got through about half of this, and I'm just like, man, what the It's this, like, skate video, sketch comedy thing, and it... yeah, I don't know what that was. And lastly, I picked this up for myself just because the premise of this show sounds so ridiculous. Cop Rock. It's a show, it's a police procedural, dead serious police procedural, where they inject a bunch of musical numbers. I'm 3 episodes into this, and I just... Who thinks of this shit? I mean, I was entertained. I'm just like, how did this exist? How did this get made? So, there we go. Alright, well guys, it's Sunday, January 19th. I hope you enjoyed the first movie collection update of 2025. Should have another one for you, because I've already got 3 movies accumulated for it, so should have another one for you maybe late February or March. So be on the lookout for the next one, and hopefully lots of nice content here for the channel. I am up for a promotion at work, so that's giving me a little bit, more on my plate that I have to kind of tend to. But, cheers to 2025. I hope you all had a very safe and happy New Year, happy holidays. And, here's to a year ahead that's a blank canvas. So, lots of memories to be made, lots of hopefully good movies that are not Strange Darling to be watched. So, thank you all for watching, and we will see you next time. Thank you.